basic habits for financial success? Maybe we've asked ourselves this question: are there in fact basic habits for financial success? Or are the outcomes in our own lives simply based on luck, being lucky or unlucky, just some basic decisions we might have made? Well, the answer is yes. There certainly are some basic habits, and yes, they may seem basic, but let's not be fooled. If all of us followed these habits, should we not all be substantially more successful than we are? So, just at a glance, don't spend more than you earn and monitor your expenses. Have a plan. Make good decisions. Be aware of the consequences of debt. Start early and have an emergency fund. So, let's start looking at these in a little bit more detail. Don't spend more than you earn and monitor your expenses. Wow, that sounds easy and obvious, right? Yes, on the face of it, it does. But then, why are debt levels at an all-time high globally? What does that mean? Does that not mean that we are, in fact, spending more than we're earning? Are we not, in fact, spending money that we have borrowed rather than money that we have earned? And then we must be proactive about monitoring our expenses. Yes, budgeting is absolutely important, and it is so important that we will be spending an entire lesson on that during the course of Module 2. But we must be really careful about leakage that we can't identify, and we must be mindful of exactly what expenses are coming up in the next few months. It's fine to look at expenses from a budgeting perspective in terms of what did I spend my money on over the last month, 2 months or 3 months, but I must be proactive about managing the upcoming expenses as well. Have a plan. We are talking about financial planning. So is it necessary to have a comprehensive and holistic financial plan at all times? No, it's not. You can start simple. If you have a basic budget in place, you already have a plan, right? So it's about having some kind of structure in our approach that is really important. And then we must just learn as much as we can as we go along of our typical needs, typical areas that we should be looking out for, and then we build on our plan as we continue. A third one, make good decisions. Again, sounds pretty obvious, right? We have to ask ourselves again, if we all made good decisions, would we not all be more positively impacted? And how do I know whether a decision is in fact a good one or not? Sometimes I might have thought that the decision was good at the time, and yet the outcomes proved me wrong. Poor decision making can be the most destructive impact on financial well-being. So we're going to delve into behaviors and decision making in much more detail later in Module 1, as well as in Module 4. So make sure to join me for those really, really important discussions. Number 4. Be aware of the consequences of debt. We all know about the dangers of debt, but the reality is that not all debt is bad. Many of us would not be able to purchase a property or even a car if we did not have access to credit facilities. But getting caught up in a cycle of debt can be extremely frustrating and lead to anxiety and poor decision making. As an example, let's say that you were in a job that you really hated and was soul destroying and really not good for your personal well-being. You might, in fact, need to make a decision or feel the need to make a decision to stay on in that job because of the level of your debt repayments that you must make on a monthly basis. So the reality is that we cannot avoid debt in certain circumstances, but it's really important to understand what it is that we're actually getting ourselves into and what the unintended consequences might be. Did you know that the household debt levels in the United States has risen to more than $4 $18 trillion. That is an eye-watering amount. That's hard to even comprehend for us. But service levels on that debt are at an all-time low compared to the last 40 years. And delinquency among credit card borrowers is rising, notably among younger borrowers. This is really some interesting insights here. So it means that whilst the debt levels are at an all-time high, repayment of that debt is at an all-time low. We can see the problems that is going to be causing into the future, right? And also an interesting one is the fact that younger borrowers are starting to be delinquent in their repayment of credit card debt. So does this not link to our earlier discussion around chasing things on a constant basis? Are we not caught up in the hedonic treadmill and possibly living beyond our means from a much earlier age? So we feel the need to buy things and we're not earning enough and we are borrowing to fund those without really considering where the repayments will come from. Number 5 on our list, start early. It's not about how much you contribute to financial goals. It's really about getting started. It's about getting into good money habits as early as you can. Because once you have established poor habits, we know that it's extremely hard to then change those. In Module 4, we will look at how we can instill positive money behaviors in our children at various ages. So please remember to join me for that one. And finally, have an emergency fund. Life happens right to all of us. Most of us have probably experienced it in that way. Unexpected and unplanned for expenses are bound to pop up at certain points in time. Don't let them derail your financial future. Because the reality is, if we do not have an emergency fund with a certain level of liquid money available, the inevitable outcome is that we dig into other areas of investments that we have and savings that we have for specific reasons to fill the immediate gaps. Really destructive to our long-term financial well-being. So let's take another moment for reflection. I'm going to list for you here again our habits. Don't spend more than you earn and monitor your expenses. Have a plan. Make good decisions. Be aware of the consequences of debt. Start early and have an emergency fund. So for our reflection point here, look at the list of habits and think really carefully. Do you practice any of these? And if not, why? This is not about any kind of judgment. This is purely about reflection at this point. And remember, it's never too early and certainly never too late to start.